Hello, and welcome back to the Steel Woman podcast. I'm your host, Osley, and today I'm going to be talking about how I have been finding myself, rediscovering, recreating, coming home to myself after religion. What does this mean? I really get stuck between two different conflicting ideas. One being you create yourself. You design yourself, you try different things and you figure out what you like, but you can sort of pick what type of person you want to be. There's that. And then there's this other idea is that you are just constantly stripping away the outer layers and getting closer and closer to your true self, your true essence. I don't know which one is true. I don't know which one is accurate. I don't know if either one is accurate. But for the sake of this video and for the sake of clarity, I do feel like I am stripping away the layers and coming home to myself, my most authentic self, that if you took everything away, there I am. I don't know if that makes sense. It's very woo-woo-y, and I feel like I do a lot of talking about logic and reasoning and, what do things mean? I love that, but I'm also kind of fluid when it comes to my words. Words are fun, and sometimes words grasp at a meaning that you can't really get at, but hopefully it's useful. So anyways, a little disclaimer there. Religion gave me an identity for a really long time. And when I say religion, I mean my relationship with Jesus that I thought that I had. I really thought that I had this two-way, connection with God, the creator of the universe, the God of the Bible, Jesus, the Almighty. And I was taught that I was supposed to become less and less like me and more like Christ, that I was supposed to reflect his love, whatever that means now. The way I look at it now is I don't know what Jesus was like at all because I never met him, and even though I thought that I had a relationship with him, there's really no way for me to tell if that was just me coming up with my own ideas, because I'm a very imaginative person, and I know that we as humans have the ability to create ideas and create stories in our head and feel connected to ideas that aren't actually real. And so now I'm like, I don't even know who Jesus was. I don't know what he was like. You have the different accounts of him in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then also from Paul and then a Revelation, like which Jesus are we even talking about? Yada, yada. I digress. But what I was taught is that I was supposed to become more like Jesus and that I should be selfless. I should be, what were the qualities that I was supposed to be like? I don't know. Maybe it was kind of nebulous. It varied situation to situation. Sometimes it'd be like, well, what would Jesus do? And then it's like, well, technically I don't know what Jesus would have done. I have my best guess, right? But I thought that I had access to him spiritually, and that somehow any convictions that I had, any thoughts that slipped into my mind were from him. The way I see it now is like, I don't think we really understand consciousness, right? I think we're still arguing about what that means. We don't really understand it. And thoughts come into my mind before I'm even aware of them. But I don't feel comfortable making claims about the origin of those thoughts, of consciousness, because I just don't feel like I can know. And I feel like it would be arrogant of me to make assertions like, well, this was from Jesus, or oh, that was from the devil. I just don't know. And it's just too much. There is a fly. Oh my gosh. It's too much emotional and intellectual brain energy to just be constantly asking, who was that from? It's just, I think it's just thoughts. And what's really been helping me, and this leads into my first thing that's been helping me, sorry, I've already been rambling for like 5 minutes. What's been helping me is not attaching to my thoughts so much and choosing to observe them, be the observer of my thoughts, and not have to feel compelled to do something, because that's scary, right? If you have thoughts coming in and you just feel compelled to do something, that could get you into trouble. So yeah, more just taking time to meditate. So that's my number one first tip, meditation. Meditation, I've always known the benefits of this, right? I've known the benefits of mindfulness meditation specifically, where you just sit and you close your eyes, or maybe not, whatever you want, and you just observe your thoughts. And when something pops up, like, wow, I should probably go take out the trash, you just sort of tag that as a thought, and you say, yeah, I'm going to worry about that later. That was a thought. And then you bring your focus back to like your breath, or maybe a mantra, or just, the feeling of sitting in a chair. And you become the observer of your own thoughts. And I've known the benefits of that type of meditation for a really long time. I'm exploring different types of meditation currently. Highly recommend reading any book by Joe Dispenza or listening to his talks. Fascinating stuff. I feel like he does a pretty good job at bringing science into it. I don't know how peer-reviewed his stuff is. I'm just not sure. I'm enjoying it currently. I don't know if I can speak to like the actual hardcore science of what he's saying. I'm not a scientist, so go do your own research. But that's someone whose meditations I've been really enjoying and books I've been enjoying. The benefits of meditation that I have experienced is, number one, being able to observe my own thoughts and my own emotions throughout the day. So this looks like the other day, for example, I got a mean comment and it really bothered me. I was fully triggered, right? I was angry, I was hurt, frustrated, all the emotions. And instead of getting so swallowed up by those emotions that I lost power for the rest of the day, that I lost the ability to get tasks done or, just go about my day and do things that need to be done, I was able to give myself time to metabolize and process those emotions and, fully feel them, right? Rather than just intellectualizing them. But then I was also able to, later on in the day, recognize when that thought would come up, when I would remember that comment. And I could choose to select, in a weird way, I just said select, so like Joe Dispenza, select. Able to select not attaching to that thought. Like, oh, that thought's coming back in. Oh, that's interesting. It's coming back into my mind. Yeah, I'm not going to attach to that right now. I'm going to choose something else. The power that makes me feel is unlike anything else. For so long in my life, I've been a victim to my own thoughts, a victim to my own emotions, a victim to my own triggers, and things still trigger me. I mean, I still get angry and I still get insecure and all of those things. But meditation has helped me separate myself somewhat from those feelings in a healthy way, where I can choose to give space for myself to process those, but then not let it poison me for days on end or weeks on end. So it's been amazing. If you're somebody who knows the benefits of meditation and you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I know, but I freaking hate sitting down and not thinking about anything. I'm right there with you. I've known the benefits of meditation for years and I have not committed to a practice. It's only been recently, now that I've left religion behind, I think, if I'm being completely honest, I think prayer in a lot of ways served as a type of meditation practice for me when I was a Christian. And this is something I find so interesting now that I'm not religious. I think religions do tap into really important aspects of being a healthy human, like community, like a shared purpose, certain rituals, right? Rituals are really healthy for us. Prayer, meditation, letting something go to this higher power. for whatever reason, those things are really good for us. And I know some of you who are religious are like, well, because, God exists. And I'm fine with people believing that. If things have happened to you that make you feel convinced that a God does exist, that's fine. I just am not convinced. And I also don't think it's important that I be convinced anymore. Slight side note here, and I'm sorry, I do tend to go all over the place, but this is an important side note. Recently, I have truly dropped the burden of feeling pressure to know one way or another if God exists. I really don't care. And I don't think it's important. I do not think it's important for me to know if God exists or not. I don't think it's important for me to believe in the right God or a God or anything. I don't think it's important. I think that is one of the biggest lies that religion told me. And again, this is just my opinion. That you have to believe. You have to have faith. You have to overcome your doubts. You have to trust in this particular version of God. I don't think so. And I think, how could I know, right? How that kind of pressure where it becomes almost a moral obligation to be convinced, how is belief or a lack of belief any measure of morality? If you're not convinced of something, you're just not convinced of something. It doesn't make you a bad person. And I think that's really clicked for me. If you haven't listened to any of Christy Burke's videos, maybe I'll link her YouTube channel below, because she is incredible. I love her stuff. And I binge watch her stuff. She was one of the first deconstruction people that I started listening to. But anyways, another side note within a side note. Recently, I have dropped that. I think it's really because of videos that she's done talking about, belief isn't a choice. Belief isn't something we can just turn on and off. If you're not convinced of something, you're just not convinced of something. Why is that immoral? Why is God going to send people to hell for not believing in him? And I think maybe the problem that I would have had with that as a Christian, because I do still try to go back into my Christian mind every now and then to attempt to fulfill the goal of this channel, which is to steal woman. It's hard. I think when I was a Christian, I really didn't believe that it was possible to not believe in a God. I think I was convinced, because of my religious upbringing, that everyone knew God existed. And they were just lying. And so it wasn't so much a lack of being convinced as much as it was a rejection. I think I would have viewed it as a rejection. Atheists don't lack belief. They're rejecting God. Rejecting God is immoral. And so, I guess unless you can... I guess I'm talking to Christians right now. Unless as a Christian you can get to a place where you're like, oh, wow, I think this atheist genuinely doesn't believe. I think they just lack a belief. They're not rejecting anything. I think until you can get to that place, it is going to look immoral to you, because it looks like it looks like a lie, And that would probably be why I would have said that people who have become an atheist after being a Christian, especially in Western societies, why they would deserve to go to hell. Because they should know. They had a relationship with God. Now they're just rejecting him. But anyways, I've gotten so far off the first point that we are going to circle right on back to the first tip that I have, which is meditating. Let this be your sign. Let this be your call to start. The best time to start meditating is right now. The second best time to start meditating was a few minutes ago. All the experts will tell you that the best time is to meditate right when you wake up in the morning or right before you go to sleep at night. And to be honest, those have been the best meditation sessions that I've ever had. But I think just breaking out of this cycle or the habit of not meditating and just doing it randomly whenever you think about it, that has been the most helpful thing to me. To be like, oh, I am just sitting here, might as well. And then I just turn on some music. I have this like 2-hour long transcendental music that I like to listen to on Spotify, and I just press play and I sit, and sometimes I just let myself think, and but I'm just sitting there, and I try to be so gentle with myself. Let this be your sign to just try it. I don't know, do whatever you want, right? For those who are deconstructing and you no longer pray and you're missing that element of letting something go and just reflecting on your own thoughts, meditation, chef's kiss. Okay, I think I've nailed that nail. Right, the second thing that has been helping me get more in touch with myself has been solo dance parties in my house. Listening to, I listen to all kinds of music. It really depends. It doesn't matter. Whatever makes you want to get moving. I used to do this a lot as a little girl. This was my favorite thing to do. And I would dance by myself in my bedroom for hours. I really didn't have friends. I had a few friends, and we would do this too. But for the most part, like, my childhood was like just dancing in my room to music. That's what I remember, at least. And I don't know why I loved doing that so much. I don't know why. Music has just always been like my drug of choice, really. It makes me feel so good and so like myself. I can't explain it. There aren't really words to explain it. It also has really helped me heal my relationship with my body after leaving religion. I've talked a little bit about this on TikTok more recently. Religion and purity culture separated me from my body and my own sensuality and hotness. Like, I can't even say the word hot without being like, stop. You're not allowed to be hot. There's a lot of programming, right? There's a lot of indoctrination of being like, it's wrong to try to be sexy. And I still struggle with that a lot. But dancing, moving my body, and realizing that, like, just because I am a woman doesn't mean that I am dirty. It also doesn't mean that I am always sexy. Like, the body has different purposes. It has different, like, how do I explain this? Like, you can move in a sensual way. Someone might see it and be like, ooh, that's really sensual. But it's not to you. Like, you get to, I'm letting myself define who I am now, the way that I look, the way that I move in my own terms. Feeling comfortable with who I am without worrying that, oh, is somebody else looking at me and thinking that I'm a slut or something. It's like, no, I know who I am, and I know what makes me feel good. I know what makes me feel powerful, and this is what I'm going to do. And other people might view me as an object, or, a sexual object, or someone who's slutty or just trying to get attention or whatever. But that's not my problem. That actually doesn't define me anymore. It's never felt right to me, even when I was a Christian. It never felt right to me that I was supposedly responsible for how men perceived me. That always gave me major eek vibes. But there was still a lot of guilt there. There's still a lot of, ooh, am I being a bad testimony to God? He wants me to be humble. He wants me, like, is my clothing framing my face? Is it framing the spirit? Is it all, when sometimes it's like, I just wanted to look hot and cute. So anyways, long story short, solo dance parties have helped me get back in tune with my own body, my own definition of sensuality and sexiness and hotness. And it just makes me feel like, no, I'm in charge. This is my body. It doesn't matter how anybody else perceives me. It's not my fault. If somebody sees me doing something and goes, ooh, well, that's not very, it's like, don't care. This is my body now, and I am immune to religious, I'm not immune to it, sadly, actually. I feel like it still is sort of programmed in my mind, but I'm becoming more and more free from religious judgment. Still, when I go out, and like I'm wearing a crop top right now, you can't tell, but I'm wearing a crop top and cute little shorts, and I went out and bought a lot of crop tops the other day, and I've been forcing myself to wear them out. And even the other day I wore a crop top and I wasn't wearing a bra underneath, and I was like, oh my god, she is wild, she's crazy. It's been so liberating though, and talking about it has also been really helpful. It's kind of like a form of exposure therapy, I think, but it's brought such comfort and confidence in my own body. And I think that it's just repetition and putting yourself out there and rehearsing these new healthy behaviors of accepting your body as it is and not allowing anybody else's possible perceptions, because again, like how people perceive you really don't know. A lot of that stuff is kept in their heads, unless you get on the internet, but you really don't know. You're just projecting your own insecurities onto the situation. So just taking power and confidence back in yourself. Dance parties have helped. Dance parties have also helped me process past hurt, scars, judgment, wounds, relationships in my life. Like just the other day I was cleaning and listening to music and kind of dancing around, whatever. And like music has just always elicited so many emotions that are deeper. They just come to the surface. And one was a relationship in my life. I pictured this person as a child, as a little child. And I pictured them being bullied. And I pictured them being really, really sad and really insecure. And, I don't know why this was happening while I was having a dance party, but it broke me down. And I saw this person in a completely different light because of that. And again, I don't know. It also might be because I was about to start my period. But I think the power of music and moving your body through the pain and just becoming more present. I guess it probably is another form of meditation, actually. Dancing and even working out, walking, just being present in your own body. It was such a healing experience for me. So if you have not tried a solo dance party, no one has to be around, right? You can be all alone, close your curtains, go in your closet, whatever you got to do. It's a beautiful thing. I think you will be really surprised with what comes up for you. And even if nothing, profound happens during your solo dance party, I think it's just really healing to accept yourself in however your body wants to move. That is self-love to me. And just to finish the thought on picturing this person who I have a relationship being bullied as a child, it gave me such more empathy for this person. I was crying about it and realizing that this person has wounds that they have probably not healed. And I need to see that and embrace that side of them that is unhealed, knowing that it is that child version of themselves that was maybe hurt by other people. Just to finish that thought. The third thing that has helped me become more in tune with myself and feel more like myself is doing this thing called shadow work. Shadow work, I'm going to link an article about it in the description if you're curious, but I'm pretty sure it was the idea of the shadow self was brought about by Carl Jung. So the shadow self is really just this part of you that you hide, the part of yourself that maybe there's secrets, maybe there's guilt, or there's just the parts of yourself you don't really want to show the world, that you keep closed off, maybe even to yourself. It can be scary to think about your deepest, darkest fears, your deepest, darkest insecurities, the things you've done in your life that you hope no one finds out about, right? Like the thoughts you've had or the things you've done. Really getting in touch with that shadow self and extending a hand to that shadow self and embracing that shadow self along with your higher self and saying, it's okay, I accept you fully as you are. I don't think that this process is peer-reviewed. According to this article that I'm going to link for you, there's not much peer-reviewed research to support it. All I have is anecdotal evidence. And I know what you're going to say, anecdotal evidence, you don't like that, do you? Well, I like it enough that I will try something based off anecdotal evidence, just like I tried being a Christian for 26 years. That's kind of my thing. If someone says, hey, this worked for me, I'll give it a shot. If it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for me. If it does, great. And I hope that more research is done on shadow work, because I think that I don't know. I don't know why it's worked for me. I've used journal prompts specifically. So I'll just go on Pinterest and I'll find these really deep, introspective questions that honestly a good therapist would probably ask you if you're in a therapy session. But sometimes, like when you're face to face with another human being, even though they're technically a therapist, you don't want to share all of the deep, dark things. Maybe you haven't gotten to that place with this therapist yet. So going to a journal and writing it out, and accepting and loving yourself no matter what comes out, that's the challenge. But what I've found is that the more that I tell myself, hey, I accept you and I love you no matter what, I got you. Loving myself even when I'm disappointed in myself, when I'm like, ew, that's ugly. It's like, yeah, but hey, who is going to love you if not you? You have to give yourself that love. And I'll make a note here. One of the things that I did like, which I don't talk often about what I liked about Christianity, but one of the things I did like about Christianity was this idea of forgiveness and like a wiping clean of your sins, right? So I used to think that, because Jesus died on the cross for my sins, that my sins were covered, and that when God looked at me, he accepted me. Okay, and the part I don't like about this is that, God can't accept who I really am. All he can accept is Jesus' blood covering me. But the idea of being accepted was something that I liked. The idea of being forgiven, the idea of Jesus loving me unconditionally, that was something I really liked, that was attractive to me. But now I realize that the idea of, unconditional love is not unique or what's the word? It's not unique. It's not exclusive to religion. It's not exclusive to Christianity. It's an idea that is available to any person, whether or not they're religious. And so for me, I give that love to myself now. And it is unconditional, and I don't have to have a blood sacrifice for it. And instead of wiping clean all of my sins, it's more like looking at all of my sins, my mistakes, things that I'm, disappointed in myself for doing. And it's saying, you're a human being who's learned lessons, and I accept every part of you. I accept every part of you as you are. I can give that to myself. That has been a game changer since I've left religion. There's no wiping clean of sins as much as it is I accept and love myself no matter what. Finding that power within myself has given me more peace than I had when I thought that Jesus loved me, honestly. And that's just been my experience. Some people like the idea of Jesus loving them, and that's fine. For me, I did too, but now I really think it was just me giving myself permission to forgive myself, using Jesus as an idea to fulfill that for me. But I still do that. I still forgive myself. I still accept myself, just in a different way, and actually a more whole way, and shadow work has helped me. I will make another disclaimer here, or not disclaimer, but okay, well, why do I have to pre-say everything I'm going to say? Accepting every part of yourself does not mean that you make excuses for bad behavior and therefore give yourself permission to keep being a lousy person. I can accept that I've been hurtful to my husband, for example, that I've said things that are wrong. And I still cringe when I think about certain the arguments we've had, things in past discussions where I'm like, wow, that was awful. And I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I guess, and this is maybe where meditation comes in, I can sort of step out of that experience or memory and go you're human, you're learning, that was wrong, it was hurtful. And when I say wrong, again, let's not go down the whole Is it objectively wrong? Does objective morality, subjective morality exist? That's a conversation for another time. For the sake of clarity and ease in conversations, I'm just going to say wrong and right. But okay, so if any of you were thinking that, that's a no there. That was wrong, that hurt, your husband. That's not the type of person you want to show up as. But I'm still able to say, but you're aware of that. You made a mistake. It's fine. Now, let's figure out how to do better next time. Let's figure out how to heal that part of you that lashed out. Let's apologize. So it's not making an excuse and just continuing on being a crappy human being. Not at all. I think it's just letting go of the shame from that mistake that you made. It's letting go of the attachment of your own character and identity to I am that type of person to do that. I am that person. No, you made a mistake. You can move on. You can heal. You're a good person. I accept that mistake you made, just like we would with our child or my husband. I can see his flaws and still love every single part of him and accept it. I don't need anyone to be perfect for me. I don't need me to be perfect for me either. So pretty much sums up my experience with shadow work. Let me give you an example of a really good shadow prompt. What is something that you hope no one ever finds out about you? Or maybe, is there something that you hope that no one ever finds out about you? Is there a secret that you would not tell anybody? It's uncomfortable because you might be yeah, okay, there is that one thing that I'm no one can know. No one can know that. Give yourself space to process those things. And maybe there's nothing. Maybe you're no, I'm an open book. I'm great. Cool. Then you know that about yourself. I'm trying to think of another good thought-provoking shadow jump. Do you think that anything that you hate or greatly dislike about other people is a quality that you possess? That's a fun one. Yeah, no, but maybe. Yeah, it can be uncomfortable, and I definitely think, be gentle with yourself. If you're going to try that, maybe do it with a therapist. But the goal isn't to shame yourself or hate yourself or shit on yourself. The goal is to more fully understand, love, and accept yourself in an effort to become your higher self. So you got your shadow self, you got your present self, you got your higher self. That's kind of how I view it. And they all work together. You're working with yourself, not against yourself. All right. Number 4, and this should have been the first one and the only one, therapy. No, therapy is becoming really common, and I'm stoked for that, especially in my generation. I feel like everyone has a therapist. It is so wonderful, and I'm hoping that we heal and just become better for each other, for our world, society. But I worry that there still is a stigma surrounding it in some circles, and in some, especially if you're deconstructing from a really high control religion, maybe the only counseling that you ever received was from an elder from your church or your pastor's wife or something. Maybe you were told that counseling is, secular counseling is going to teach you bad things that go against the Bible, and so you can't do it. So if you're deconstructing out of that and you've never had therapy before, you may have to also deconstruct the negative stereotype of secular counseling in order to go to one. I don't know. It's going to be different for everybody. I'll put myself out there, right? Call myself out. I'm still seeing a Christian counselor on a Christian platform. Look, I know that I need to go out and I need to get secular counseling, and I'm actually in the process of doing that. I am in the process of finding a secular counselor now, but I also really love my Christian counselor, and and we have rapport. So here, I'll make another quick note about this. Leaving fundamentalist Christianity behind has meant that I also need to leave behind any black and white thinking that limits me and harms me. And so the way I see it is that my Christian counselor has been very helpful. She is not only she's not a Christian therapist using Christian methods. Yes, those things probably make her biased in some ways. I think we're all victims to bias in some ways. And I'm aware of that. And I know that if I'm going to really work on my religious trauma, I need to find somebody who is probably not religious, or at least not religious in my, is not Christian. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say, I have an amazing secular religious trauma therapist and you should too. I'm actually working on that right now. But I just love my Christian counselor so much. We have such good rapport. She's amazing. I'm in love with her. So yeah, I'm trying to be gentle with myself there too. Deconstructing that. I got her when I was still a Christian. And so we've just been through a few things together that make me just really trust her and love her a lot. And if that feels comfortable to you, if you're in the beginning of deconstructing and you're like, I don't want to go find, an atheist or Buddhist counselor or whatever, that's fine. A lot of Christian counselors will use real effective counseling methods that are based in research and not just based in scripture. Start wherever you need to. Be gentle with yourself. Oh my God. If I can say one thing to people watching, it would just be gentle with yourself. Be gentle to other people too. But it starts with us. If we're mean and judgmental towards ourselves, it is only going to spill out to everybody else. And that's at least been my experience and my observation. And if you can't afford it right now, or for whatever reason you're not in a position to get therapy, here's something that I've used for the past 4 years now, pretty consistently, and it is self-therapy video journals. I probably need to either back up those videos or delete them because there's so many on my phone, and I made a lot while I was deconstructing too. And what I will do, I'll just set up my iPhone and I'll talk about my problems as though my iPhone is my most beloved friend. Is this a coping mechanism that stems from childhood attachment issues? Maybe, maybe not. All right, I don't need you judging me here. This is just some advice. What's really helpful is speaking your problems, and then actually doing the work of listening back. Listening back is the best part, because that's when you can really be objective or more objective about your own problems. And because I know a lot of people who are great at giving advice, they won't take their own advice. So when you're listening to yourself talk about your own problems, sometimes, you just get things coming in. You're like, oh, well, this is obvious. She's not noticing this, or well, she should have done that. So just give that a try. If therapy isn't an option for you now, be your own therapist. Please don't do that long term, though. I think therapy still is way better than trying to help yourself by yourself. But I do think we have a lot of power to help ourselves, and building that trust in that relationship is going to be this can be a great start. So yeah, little tip. The fifth thing that has helped me get more in touch with my true self after leaving religion has been inner child work. And this is similar to shadow work. Sometimes I do inner child work through shadow journal prompts, but it just is a lot of trying to remember what I liked to do when I was a kid. What were my interests? What were my hobbies? What were my emotional problems? What did I cry about? What really made me sad? What made me frustrated? If I could go back in time and talk to my younger self at pick an age, maybe 6, what would she need to hear? What would she want to do? If we were playing together, if we had a little girls' date. Like, what would we go do together? What would she find to be fun? What would she want to know about me now? What would make her happy about where I am now? What would she be concerned about? Just going back and thinking, because I really think when we're kids, yeah, we're still developing. We're very impressionable. We're sponges. We're picking up, things in our environment, but we're also, maybe this is wrong, but I feel like our true selves are so much more at the surface. We're more unapologetically ourselves, I think, as a kid, because we haven't yet learned how to mask certain parts of ourselves or change certain parts of ourselves to accommodate others. We haven't learned social cues. We are just sort of, when we're hungry, we say we're hungry. When we're mad, we're clearly mad. When we like something, we like something. When we don't, we don't. As we get older, we start molding ourselves to our peers, and we maybe hide our emotions and things like that. So I really like to think about, okay, what was I doing when I was a little girl? And what would she need to hear? I've also tried to do this, and I mentioned this a little bit before, to other people in my life, especially if I have a complicated relationship with them. I try to think about them as a little kid. And sometimes just the image of them as a child is enough for me to just be like, oh, I get it. I get why you are the way that you are, and I love you, and it's okay. And you're a wonderful person. You just have had a lot of crappy things happen to you. I don't know. For me, thinking about people as children, game changer. Children are we have more compassion for little kids. They're more innocent. They have a more goodness, I guess, perceived goodness. But I think that inner child is still in us all. And life just does things, and it separates us from that goodness. Sometimes, I don't think everyone gets separated from their goodness, but I think it's a good start when you're trying to figure out who you are, is to think about who you were as a kid. This has also helped me deconstruct the assumptions that I make about my own identity and character. There's certain things that I believe about myself that I've only recently realized are a problem. And I don't want to believe those things about myself anymore. And more often than not, they stem from things happening in childhood, things that were said to me, maybe repeatedly, or maybe just one situation, one scenario that made an impact on me for whatever reason, that made me develop this belief about my own identity. Going back and being like, oh my God, like what would I say to that little girl who this thing happened to, and now she's developing this belief about herself? What would I do to prevent that from happening? Let me think of an example. I know I've already thought of an example, to be honest. I remember I was told that I was flirty when I was probably like 7. And this was not an adult who told me this, right? So before you're like, what adult told a little girl that? No adult told me that I was flirty. And honestly, it was probably said out of anger. I don't think it was maybe it was the truth. I don't know. But for whatever reason, I remember being so incredibly offended that I was called a flirt. I really liked playing with the boys at this age, and because I just thought they were more fun. I guess I was going through a tomboy period of my life. I also went through an extremely girly period of my life, but this phase, whatever, maybe it was just a few months, I really just wanted to play with boys, and I was called a flirt for that. And I took it so personally. I mean, I don't know why. I thought it was a bad thing to be a flirt. Don't know who taught me that. I really don't. That sounded sarcastic, but I really don't. But ever since that moment, when I was 6 or 7, I have been so on myself all the time to make sure that I'm not being flirty. And it's this fear, right? Like, oh, did I come across as flirty? Did I come across as, because I don't want them to think that. I want to make sure that I'm, not flirty. To a point where like I couldn't even really, I had no game when it came to, meeting my husband. And it was very cringy. He had no idea I liked him because I had never practiced flirting, because I'd always been practicing the opposite of flirting, which was being purely platonic. It's so sad. Yeah, so that's just one example of one thing that was said to me. One thing when I was 6 or 7, maybe I was 8 or 9, I don't know, that affected the trajectory of my personality for the next 20 something years. I mean, obviously I don't want to be a flirt. Like, well, yeah, why is it? It's still a negative thing to be a flirt. Oh, she's a flirt. And maybe it's usually said in a negative way, and that's what I picked up on, and that's why I just knew, like, oh, well, something about it must be wrong. But I took it to the extreme, where I just felt like I couldn't really flirt with people, and it was sinful almost. I was, slutty woman with wiles. Let's see if I can think of another one. So, like, I mean, I'm not actively trying to flirt now, but I am trying to be more conscious of, like, being comfortable being perceived as a flirt, being misperceived as a flirt. I think that's key for me now, because what's happened to me a lot is, as an adult, I've been like, oh, I was really smiley just then. I wonder if they thought I was flirting with them. It's like one of my fears. I'm trying to let go of that now and be like, look, if they thought I was flirting with them, that's fine. I don't really care. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. I wasn't. So there we go. Let me see if I can just think of one more to help you, get the balls rolling. What are things that were said to you as a kid that maybe just once or twice, that because of those things, you have developed an unconscious or subconscious belief about yourself. It's become your personality. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe your first grade teacher told you that you were really, really good at math. Do you get taught math in first grade? I can't remember. But anyway, let's say one of your teachers when you were young praised you for a good job. And because of that, you are now really, really good at whatever you got praised for. That can happen in a positive way, and then it can also happen in a really negative way. And so looking at both, of course, one doesn't cancel out the other. There's good and bad. Going back to your childhood and seeing, like, what happened to you when you were a kid that made you feel that way. Yeah, that's helped me. That's helped me. So hopefully, take what you will from that. So yeah, doing inner child work has helped me identify the things that hurt me. Sometimes the way family and friends speak about other people or even themselves can teach you to hate things about yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I read that note, because I do want to touch on that. Some of the things that we pick up on to hate about ourselves are not things that were said directly to us or about us, but were said about other people. So if you were raised in a family that, for whatever reason, I don't know, spoke negatively about their own bodies, whatever their body looked like. Let's say there was just a lot of, oh, I'm too this or I'm too that. Maybe they never said that about you. They never said you were too this or you were too that, but they said it about themselves, and you watched them say that. And then you started looking in the mirror and you started going, well, I'm this, I'm that. They don't like this. They don't like that. I must change this then. I must change that. I'm not worthy of love or respect unless I change this and change that. So it can be really subtle, and this is why I think it's so important, if I ever do have kids, but even just around your friends and people in general, to be so careful when you're self-deprecating that you're not unintentionally teaching other people to hate things about themselves. I think self-love gives other people permission to love themselves, right? Like if I see someone doing something with confidence, right? They're just owning themselves. They are just in the zone, and they're happy and accepting whatever, maybe it's a physical thing. And I've had insecurities about this physical thing, but I see them confidently embracing this physical thing about themselves. And and they maybe even say they love it about themselves. Like, oh, I love this physical thing about myself. And I'm like, oh, well, cool. I get to love that about me too. I mean, it's so easy to see when you swing in the opposite direction to the negative of all of the fads and the trends that come in and out about things that are bad, things that, oh, do you want to get rid of this? Well, here's what you do. It's like, oh, I do have that. I didn't know that was wrong. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. I'll try to fix that. It's can work the other way too, where when you're positive about your body, you give other people permission to love things about themselves. Was there anything as a kid that you were taught to not like about yourself because other people around you talked poorly about themselves for having that thing? Let's think. Anything else that has helped me get back in touch with myself after leaving religion? This one's kind of sad, but I think it's good advice, honestly. Distance yourself from people who only know the version of yourself that you are trying to no longer be. This is lonely. This is hard. This is isolating, and be careful here. Like, don't isolate yourself to a point where you have no one in your life and you're all alone, and that if that's bad for you, don't do that. Like, find good people in your life, but especially when you're leaving an entire culture, an entire community of religious people, and maybe just some people in your life who just know a version of yourself that you're not trying to be anymore. Know how impressionable you are. Know how easily influenced you are. Some people aren't. Some people can be themselves no matter what, and they are just smooth sailing. Some people, like me, not so much. You'll sort of be a chameleon. You'll sort of just find yourself slipping back into old habits and old ways. If you are really wanting to change and really wanting to become just a better version of yourself and leave all of that hurt and harm behind, I would just say be so intentional about who you spend time with. And if your body is telling you no, because you know, honor your body, honor yourself. If it's a no, if you can't be with this person, spend time with this person, talk to this person, don't overcomplicate it. Just give yourself that space. I think that honoring your no's, honoring your yeses and your noses, honoring when it's a yes, honoring when it's a no. And yeah, just the people that I choose to spend time around currently in my life. People is a generous term because it's really only my husband and my dog right now. I feel like I can be 100% myself. That is so, like, I do not take that for granted. I do not take that for granted. And it just helped me become so much more confident and at peace with who I am. And I feel more authentic. And, I'll build outward. I'll build outward from my circle. Not even really. I'll build outward as I'm ready. I'm not going to pressure myself to go back to old relationships and situations and environments that are just going to catapult me back into my old self, because look, I really cannot emphasize enough, do not underestimate the power of your environment. Oh my God. And I think this is a big reason why religion tells you to go to church, right? Don't forsake the meeting of the saints, keep around people, because it knows the power of community. And when you're trying to keep your faith, when you're trying to follow the straight and narrow, religions know you need to be around people who are also doing that. If you're off by yourself, you become, what do they say, a lone wolf, and you just you go astray. Of course, I don't think that's a bad thing to do. I think more people should do that, because when you are ready to then go find community, you're searching for community from an authentic place. You're looking for people who have the same values that you have because you've done the time to develop them, and they are true and authentic to you, right? Rather than just being a sheep, rather just being a follower. You're taking that time to reflect on what is truly important to you, and then you're going out and finding those people who share those values. I don't know, it's been my approach. Again, I'd be careful because I think self-isolating is a problem, and I can also become too extreme in that and isolate to a point where like I don't need anybody ever. But it's not true. We do need community. But if you are in a stage where you still are like, oh God, like my religious community and who am I, just give yourself some alone time. That's going to be helpful, I think. I hope. Anyways, I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful. I hope you have a fantastic week. I love you very much. I hope you are finding answers. I hope you are finding peace. I hope you are finding power in the present moment, right? And I hope that you try, of all the things that I've listed, I would just say, pretty please, meditate. It's not fun. It's sitting down and doing nothing. You'd be surprised. It can kind of feel like torture, but it's worth it. And on that note, farewell.